Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Aliyah McCants, and I'm joined here by some fabulous speakers, and today we're going to be having a very rich conversation on the topic of holding space, which is something that Peloton is doing in honor of this year's Mental Health Awareness Month. So thank you for joining us. We're really excited to dive in. First, I'll maybe start by introducing the speakers, starting with you, Anna. So Anna Greenberg is a Peloton Yoga, meditation, and Pilates instructor. She is a teacher trainer, a workshop leader, and a Peloton instructor here in New York. Your unique teaching style uses movement and music to help members connect to the same healing properties of yoga that she has experienced herself. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining us. And next to her is Dr. Alfie Breland-Noble, who is a CEO, a psychologist, a scientist, an author, an advisor, clearly a multi-hyphenate powerhouse of a woman. Dr. Alfie is the founder of the Akoma Project, which is a nonprofit that focuses on developing culturally relevant and community-engaged solutions for the mental health of youth and young people of color. She is a recognized expert in the field of mental health, suicide prevention, and diversity. And she also serves as an advisor to the Project Healthy Minds Project, which is one of our partners for this Mental Health Awareness Month. And lastly, we have Lauren Weinberg, who is the Peloton Chief Marketing Officer. Lauren leads Peloton's global marketing org. And as Peloton continues our transformative journey, Lauren is focused on broadening reach, appeal, and impact for Peloton, while amplifying our mission and commitment to inclusive fitness. Thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us. And ladies, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So first, shall we dive in? So actually, I'm going to turn it over to Anna, who will lead us in a grounding meditation.
Great. Thank you so much. So everyone, place your feet nice and firmly on the ground, hips distance wide. If you're sitting in a chair, scoot just a little forward so that your spine can lift up nice and tall with a sense of ease. Just rest your palms face down on your thighs, which can be nice and grounding. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you, or you can gaze softly down your nose at one point that's not moving, so you are able to tune your awareness inward. Take a slow, smooth, deep breath in through your nose, creating a little more space inside. As you exhale all the air out, let yourself land inside the safety of your own container, your physical body that is your home, you can always come back to. Feel your legs solid and rooted underneath you, and your back broad and tall behind you. Allow your breath to be full and easy, and your front to be open and receptive. Take another few moments here just to notice how you feel inside. And we'll practice a brief mantra, which is a word or phrase that we repeat silently to ourselves, in this case, to the rhythm of our breath, just to help ground us all in this moment together exactly where we are. On your next inhale, say silently to yourself, I am here. As you exhale, this is now. Inhale, I am here. Exhale, this is now. Stay with your breath and this mantra for another few rounds. Then you can let the words fall away. Begin to sense yourself in the space around you. And as you're ready, slowly float your eyelids open and just notice how it feels. after tuning in and creating this collective space together. Thank you, everyone. I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Anna. And for those who are tuning in, we would just like to invite you to take this next 45 minutes and take this conversation to really pour into yourself. We have a lot to learn from our panelists, and so all the stresses that are outside, you can just leave them outside, and let's be here. And to help us maybe enter into this space together, let's just start with defining what holding space means to each of you. So Anna, since you led us so gracefully through that grounding exercise, why don't you start?
Okay, thank you so much. So to me, holding space is kind of twofold. As someone who personally has struggled with anxiety and depression, I often feel when I'm overwhelmed that there's no borders, there's no container. And so holding space, that first part to me is creating the boundaries, creating the container. Like, as I said during the meditation, just your own container or whatever it is, the parameters of a therapy session or a class where you are creating this container that someone can actually, whether it's yourself or someone you're facilitating for, can actually feel the boundaries to, breathe into like a hug, to feel, okay, I'm safe here. And then the second part is to create that space inside, to organize it, however you're doing it, through meditation, through practicing yoga, through therapy, through breathing, to really stay with whatever that practice is and to create a safe space there.
Thank you. I really love what you said about creating a sense of safety. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Alfie, what does holding space mean to you?
Oh, that's such a good question. I love everything that Anna shared. I've been a mindfulness meditation person who practices it for about 18 years. And I was introduced to it by a Latina psychologist, Dr. Maya McNeely, and truly it changed my life. And so in the context of what does holding space mean, I feel like when Dr. McNeely shared it with me, I felt like what she was doing was creating space for me in her role and in her being as a Latina who grew up on the south side of Chicago in predominantly Black spaces as part of, I believe she said her family is Mexican American and very diverse. She was the first person I ever encountered, it makes me emotional just thinking about it, who allowed me to be me. I didn't have to be anything other than just Alfie anytime I was with her. That's what holding space means to me. She created an environment, alluding to what you said about filling the container. She created a safe space. And so to me, holding space is this idea of I can be present and create the space that allows another person to be present. And I can just hold space for them to be exactly who they are in that moment without taking up space. I don't need to talk. I don't need to do anything. I just need to be present. And I just need to create an environment to hold space for them to just be exactly who they are. And so often we have to put on so many masks and do so many different, I'm looking at all of us women up here, and you all are in corporate space, I'm in a nonprofit space. It can be challenging. And so holding space is just allowing, like in this example, each of us to just be present. What can I do to allow somebody to just be present?
I love that. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Thank you. Yeah, so not just, creating a sense of safety, but allowing us to show up as ourselves and allowing others to show up as themselves too in that space. Thank you. That really resonates. Lauren, how about you? What does holding space mean?
So mine's a little bit less profound than Dr. Alfie and Anna, but I'll say, for me as like a working mom, I am just like busy all the time. There's always somebody that wants my time constantly. Like if it's not someone at work or my kids, it's my 3 dogs that follow me into the bathroom. And so for me, it really is around just finding time that's just my me time. And for me, like it's silly things. So sometimes it changes, right? And sometimes it's like, what do I need right now? And I think as I get older, I'm able to be more honest with myself about what is the thing that I need. Sometimes I crave time being around other people and I just know I need to socialize. And other times I want to be on my sofa drinking wine and not talk to anybody. And I think it's really like checking in with myself and saying, what do I need? And then I have a morning ritual, which will probably make all of you laugh, but I've been doing the same thing forever. And when my kids were little, they were trained, and I have 3 dogs, and they're all trained that in the morning, I get up, I make myself coffee, I take an eye mask out of the freezer, I get back in bed, I sit in bed, and I drink my coffee with my eye mask on in silence. Nobody can talk to me. Nobody, if anyone gets up before that ritual is finished, my kids know. I used to have a cup that would say like, not to talk to me until the coffee was at the bottom.
Wow.
And even I have a new puppy and I'm like, you stay here until I get back.
I love it.
This is my like morning
taking
space.
notes.
Me too.
Like this is what I do in the morning, and it's kind of like my way to get into the day, to sort of just like reflect for a minute what's coming, and just like take that time for myself before like the whole day and all the commotion and everything begins.
I am so jealous of your morning ritual, Lauren. That's incredible.
Anyone can do it.
See, Dr. Alfie felt really moved by
I'm
that too.
impressed. It's not easy to create those boundaries. So hats off.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well done.
exactly. No, I just was reflecting when you said everybody knows to leave you alone. That takes effort to
Yeah.
teach everybody, and I think the other thing that makes me elated about that, my daughter's here with me. That's how my kids were, right? It was like sort of like, and I can remember the little feet. I know you went through this. You hear little feet tipping to the door. It's like, no, mommy's meditating. And then they would tip away from the door.
Yeah.
But the idea, I think I love that in addition to you having time for you, you're modeling for the children. Everybody needs time for themselves.
Yeah.
So they get to see this powerful working mom, with this great high-powered job. Mommy needs time. And so they know that they have permission to have time too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not
That
even-
and when I don't do it, I'm really cranky. And so they're like, it's better, let her have the coffee.
Tomorrow, Mom. Take your time. Do your ritual.
Yeah, so you're not even just creating space for yourself, but you're also teaching others how to create space for themselves too, right? And that's valuable and meaningful.
That's it.
Anna, so I'm going to move on from that theme, but tell us about your journey to Peloton and then how you hold space for others in the Peloton community as you teach.
So I was recruited to come to Peloton by, at the time, the executive producer who was creating the yoga program. She was a student of mine, and she came to me and said, hey, I have this crazy idea, virtual yoga, Peloton. And I was like, virtual yoga, what? This was years ago. And she was like, well, just come check it out. And so I came around to the company. I met some people. I auditioned, and I was like, this actually seems really cool. Getting over that hump of being like, wait, but my whole existence, is so much about interpersonal relating. That's what made me fall in love with yoga. That's what I love about teaching. But then the idea of actually taking that and, reaching a so much broader scale and being able to, I really try to imagine, each of my students, even though I can't, always see their faces, that each one of them is there. I'm really trying to connect. And so the idea that I could just reach so many more people felt really exciting and amazing. And I think that we've done just that. I really do feel that part of the Peloton magic is that we're able to keep it very intimate, which is that part of holding space and personal. We're in people's homes. I feel that we do a good job of really trying to speak to everyone and hold space for everyone to create an environment where everyone, as you said, feels that they can show up as their true authentic selves. So that is a huge part of how I hold space. I try to be, my real authentic self and do a great job, but also show that I'm a vulnerable human too, and let everyone know that, the way that they're showing up today is the only way I want them. That's, I'm so happy to meet everyone exactly where they are, and it's truly an honor to do so.
As the recipient of some of that, it sounds like it takes a lot of hard effort and thought to connect to people in a millions and millions of members across the world. And so just thank you for that effort. I told you last night I was practicing with my kids and they were like, you're going to meet Anna? And even my 9-year-old children, know who you are and feel connected to you. And that's a gift. And so thank you for investing that gift in our family and in the Peloton community. So Lauren, as the leader of a big brand, a big function, you're leading a global distributed team. Some of your key stakeholders are Peloton members, but then also Peloton team members. how do you hold space for these as someone who's also leading a function at Peloton and who is a working mom? Like, how do you hold space for these two audiences in your work?
Well, I'll start by talking about the members first.
Okay.
And so I think like for us, I'm a member. I was a member before I was an employee. And so agree. Thank you, Anna, and everybody, because I can't even tell you the number of times where I've like having a Peloton experience and I just feel so like seen by the instructors because they say something that really like validates like, if I have 5 minutes to meditate and that's all I have, I'm still like, I feel like there's a way that you all make me feel proud for showing up in that 5 minutes, or if it's a 15-minute thing, it's time I'm taking for myself. And I love when you all say, if this is the only time you had today, good for you for being here. And I'm like, thank you. I feel really like seen by that. And so I think, as the person who's leading the marketing function, we have to always kind of remember to think about the member first experience. And so it's easy to do that when you work for a brand that you love and where you are a member of that experience. But just, and how there's a lot that we have to say all the time. And I think it's just remembering to say, how would I receive this as a member of this community? What is the most important thing that we want to say? Because, in marketing, sometimes we have 6 seconds, sometimes we have 15 seconds, sometimes it's 30 seconds. And we want to tell you, communicate the specialness of our community. And we want you to understand the functionality of our hardware and the robust nature of all of our modalities and the price point. It's like a lot to say. And so I think for us, it's being very intentional about how do we think about what we're saying, when we say it, the different, where people are when they're consuming that message. So like how do we think about our channel strategy and just always putting that lens of like, how would I receive this information as a member? And then for employees, it's interesting. Before I came here, I was a remote employee, so working from home all the time. And so it's been really nice to come back into the office. But I will say, and also I've been a New York employee working for a California headquartered company. And so I think just thinking and being just respectful and mindful of where we have people all over the world. And I see people showing up in times where I'm like, it's either really late for you or it's super early, and just trying to be respectful of where people are. And I always like to say to people, like, I'm a night owl. And so sometimes the only time I have to get to things is late at night. And I used to get feedback all the time where people would say, you email me at night and I feel really stressed out. And I would say, you could be up really early in the morning and I will not be. So I will not respond to your emails. But that's just I'll be in my ritual and I will be do not disturb on my phone. And so I think just, helping people understand your expectations, which is, I don't expect you to respond. That's just the only time that I can get back to this, but like not something that's respected. Or even just sometimes, like today I sent a note to the team and I said, it's not urgent. I'm still relatively new here. I said, I just have a question about how we do something. And so you have a lot going on. And when you get a moment, like I would love to understand more about like why we do this thing in this way. So just take your time and just, I think, being respectful of people's time, really important. Acknowledging, I think we do a pretty nice job here of just the hybrid culture. It seems, I feel like COVID did a really good job of training all of us. And as a working parent, it's really nice to have flexibility to be home. My son broke his ankle the other week and I had to be home and take him to the doctor. And it's just nice because I feel like I can do more and have that flexibility. So I try to be really supportive of giving the people on my team that space and flexibility and respect for where they are.
Yeah, I heard you say respect a lot, and that also there's just a lot of intentionality in how you speak to a team and how you hold space for them and how you say, hey, it's not urgent. I just want to hear about this thing. I think that takes leadership and it takes intentionality, and it really helps to prevent the kind of burnout that we can all, when you care about something so much, you work, and we end toward burnout. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Dr. Alfie, you are you're an expert in preventing burnout in culturally relevant ways. Yes. So what does the science say about burnout? And then how can people, you, me, all of us, how can we prevent it and avoid it?
I think the science is really trying to catch up with the pace of where we are and how rapidly we're moving, right? So I think the science is really working to get there. I also think the science needs some time to account for the many different ways in which people experience burnout and the many different individual experiences that contribute to burnout, right? So again, we go back to these aspects of our identity. Everybody has multiple identities, right? And so the thing that's going to cause burnout for me, there's some things that we all share.
Yep.
There are things that our audience, they're, you know, that are kind of universal in terms of burnout, but then there are things that are a little different, right? So I think for me, it's important, going back to what you were saying about feeling seen in different ways. For me, burnout has to account for all the different things that may contribute to the experience of burnout. So as women, right, I think I've heard everybody here say they're parents, right? So as a caregiver, there are some burdens that we may have as caregivers for young people that other folks don't have. There may be some things about burnout or that contribute to burnout that are related to your experience of being in a corporate environment, right, that other people might not have. And so I think it really is about trying to personalize the understanding of what burnout is, because each of us engages with burnout differently. You're a night owl. I really struggle with night owlness because I am one too, right? But I think that I'm Gen X. And so there's this part of Gen X where it's like you just work till the work gets done. There's no work-life balance. That's like not a thing. That's not how we were raised,
Then you
right? And
realize
it's
the
like
work
if
is never
stuff needs to
done.
get done, you just do it.
Right.
Right? And if you don't have time to wait, you know, we are good for, I don't have time to wait for this. It's midnight. I'm just going to do it. And I think those are the kinds of things where I'm learning from millennial colleagues and Gen Z colleagues. It doesn't have to be like that. So I think that burnout, I think we do better when we really take the time to understand what are those things about each of us individually that are unique and contribute to our experience of burnout. And I think the science really needs to get there. I think our science is not quite there yet. And then the other thing is, I try to share with people, I know Anna will appreciate this, is that we have to know our baseline. So how do you know when you're feeling burnout if you don't know what it feels like to be in a neutral space? Like you're not in tune with your body in that way. And again, as a Gen Xer, I think about baby boomer parents, they're not taught that. So they didn't teach me that. So what's the idea of baseline? What is that? You just go, 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 go. Stuff needs to get done. You just get it done. And I don't want to hear any complaining. Then with the part of my identity that's African American and coming from a Southern background, right? I would hear, you probably know some of this too, I would hear stuff about, well, you know, back in the day, they didn't have the option to slow down. So what are you whining about?
Right.
You know? And so it's like, well, how do you fight burnout if what you're hearing is like, go, 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 go? And I think each of us has a part of our identity where there's some part of it that we've been told something similar. Just do it till it gets done. There's no time for rest. You know, I hate to say it, but I can remember hearing people say, including mentors, you rest when you're dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That was
Or
sort of
sleep
the
when you're
message.
dead.
So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you like deal with burnout if that's what people are telling you? So knowing your baseline and understanding what are those things that detract from your ability to care for yourself, that detract from your ability to just be in an equilibrium or equal heart space, an even heart space, a neutral heart space. I feel like if we knew those things better, we could do an enhanced job of teaching people how to recognize when they get to overstress, which is another way that I talk about burnout. You just completely overstress and you have no capacity to manage that stress. So that's what it is for me.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you know, knowing your baseline, understanding the traditions, understanding the narratives that you have in your head that might be contributing to you overworking, like all of that is really important. And I'm so glad that the science is like catching up to what we all inherently know to be true. Yeah. So thank you. And we can go on and on about that. Kind of on that theme, Anna, I know a lot of folks who are tuning in today are, and you know, many of us, all of us who are on the stage are juggling a lot. We're juggling jobs, we're juggling family, we're juggling work responsibilities, family responsibilities. I think when we did the pre-pro for this, I was like driving to take my son to a birthday party, right? Which is, I think, indicative of the many responsibilities that we're juggling. So one of the things that I've heard on the stage is like everyone here is very intentional about carving out moments for themselves amid all of that chaos. So for those, you know, those who might be tuning in who are also juggling, how do you carve out moments of space for yourself when you have, you know, many demands on your time, when the dog is trying to come into the bathroom to follow you in? You're like, how do you carve out space?
Yeah. I mean, look, let me just start out by saying it's challenging.
Yeah.
Period.
I don't always do it perfectly. I have a 20-month-old who is a wild. 2 dogs, an awesome job, and sometimes, like when you talked about your morning ritual, I really feel impressed that you do that.
Yeah.
Because it takes work. If you aren't intentional about creating boundaries, holding space for yourself, the space will fill. And it will feel totally chaotic, and you will feel, or at least when I don't create those boundaries, I end up feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, resentful, like I'm not doing a good job, in any one capacity. So I try to notice when, for me, what it feels like is that time and space close down, like there's no space inside. So then I'm like, okay, I need to carve out that container where the space exists. And sometimes it's just going into a private room, the bathroom is usually lock the door, take a few deep breaths and just reset, look for my baseline, and just try to get back to that. And allow the time and space to open up inside and say to myself, I might not get everything done today. It might not look perfect, but I'm going to reopen this space for myself, and I'm not going to be at the whim of the overwhelm anymore. I'm not going to be at the whim of the anxiety. And when that does happen, I do try to really intentionally do something, however small, whether it's a 5-minute meditation, taking a walk outside, maybe like having an intentional conversation with my partner, where it feels like I'm taking back the narrative of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us do have a lot going on, and at different stages in our lives or our careers, sometimes the ability to take a lot of time and space is more or less. Like for me, it's less right now, and that's okay. So I think also giving ourselves grace and being like, okay, I wasn't perfect today, but I did my best, and just allowing ourselves to be where we are and just holding the space for that too.
I love that. Two things that you said that really, really resonated with me are this idea of grace. And I read this definition once of grace being patient, loving kindness. What's better than that? Like to give yourself space and be kind to yourself. So I try to share with people, treat yourself as kindly and lovingly as you do the person you love most in the world.
Wow.
Right? And if you can, like, you think about if you have children, the things that you would do for your child, this human that you care for, or maybe it's your pet, try to give yourself some of that too. And then another thing that you mentioned that it's like so important to me, I am the queen of this in my family, that's boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? And so boundaries for me, boundaries aren't for other people. Boundaries are for us. And so those two things are really important to me in terms of the hows of holding space for yourself. And then the other thing that when I've treated patients, I used to tell people, there's a little bit of work I hope each of us can do before we get to the space of being able to sit and take one of Anna's classes, which everybody needs to do, because everybody needs meditation in their life, right? And that is, think about, do you want your life to be different? Right? And not different in a bad way, different in a good way. And then think about, how willing are you to make one tiny change to get closer to that goal of making your life different? And then how ready are you to make a commitment to that change, right? And to start teeny tiny. People might not be able to do 5 minutes of sitting quiet because they're thinking to themselves, as soon as I sit down, all the stuff I got to deal with is going to come rushing into my head. Don't start out for 5 minutes. We're not all Anna. So don't start out with 5 minutes. Start out with 30 seconds, right? Start out with, at night, I'm going to put my phone, I saw this on a documentary, I've never forgotten it, in another room or another floor of the house. So that when I open my eyes, that's not the first thing I do.
See.
Right? So it's like these little things, but I really love to encourage people to hold space and give themselves grace by starting with the process of thinking through, do I want it different? How much do I want it different? And how invested am I in doing something different? Because that way we set ourselves up for success. And that process, that's holding space, because all of that is focused on ourselves. And how often do we get to focus on ourselves, as you were saying, in the course of any day?
Yeah. I would love to double click on the idea of boundaries, because that's been a theme in what I heard you say, whether it's you carving out space in the morning or you having an intentional conversation with your partner, or you just very explicitly said, this is a boundary. How do you go about setting boundaries, whether it's at work or in life or on the mat? What is your process of setting boundaries? And if you were speaking to somebody for whom the idea of a boundary is very new and they're just like, I don't know where to start. Like, what would your advice be to someone who's looking to set a boundary for the first time?
So my advice usually around setting boundaries, and I think one of the things that I'm passionate about a lot of things, but one is also just helping new parents think about how to go back into work, because I feel like when I had my kids, there was no support. I'm Gen X also. I feel like it was don't talk about it. Just go back to work, and no one cares that you just had a baby and that you're tired and
you're like this whole different person.
And so then I thought that was really hard for me. So how can I make it different for other people? And I felt like I didn't have good boundaries initially. And so my advice to parents coming back into the workspace is decide what your boundaries are, whether that's you're leaving at 5 on the dot every single day, and then claim it. Be unapologetic about it, and no one cares. Everyone will work around you. It's all this internal dialogue you tell yourself about why you can't do it. And so I always say, decide what works with you, with your partner. When do you need to leave? What do your hours look like? Set expectations if you have a team and you're changing the way you're going to be working or what you're going to do. Let everybody know what that looks like and what they can expect from you, and just stick to it. Mm-hmm. Don't apologize, and just kind of own it. And I think, I would say I really loved what both of you were saying about just giving yourself grace, because I am a perfectionist, and I used to not be able to go to sleep at night if I didn't get everything on my to-do list done. Mm-hmm. And then I realized a long time ago, thank God, that that's not possible. And I was just killing myself. And now I'm I have a list of things that I kind of want to do this week. I'm still a very much paper to-do list, checklist kind of person. I mean, that's just who I am. But I also am much better about saying, and also my kids, sometimes I forget stuff and they get annoyed. And I also say, ask for help. I feel like I'm hey, moms, there's the whole village out there. When it's blue shirt day at school, can someone text me? Because I probably didn't read the email. And then my kids are I'm the only
because the email came the day before.
Wear a blue shirt to school. And then I say, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm sorry that I missed that. But then I'll say to everybody, hey, I've moved a lot in my life too. And when I find those new people, I'm hi, I'm the mom that needs extra help. So please text me. It won't annoy me, but I would love your help. And so I think claiming that for yourself, just owning who you are, giving yourself a lot of grace, and then just not apologizing.
Yeah. And also asking for help when you need it, recognizing when, and then leaning on your village and your community. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So I think what helps a lot of us is, in addition to giving ourselves grace, it is recognizing, I love to say this to people because it was meaningful the first time I heard it. I am perfect just as I am, and I am enough. And in each moment, I'm growing into a more perfect version of myself. So if I can give myself grace to say, where I am today, this is where I'm supposed to be. And if today is a day that I don't enforce my boundaries the way I would like to, there's a reason for that, and that's okay, right? To me, that's what grace is about. And if tomorrow I don't do it, that's okay too. If I give myself the opportunity to reflect on what's getting in the way, right? And going back to this idea of, am I ready to move that thing that is the impediment for me? And I think for some of us, we're afraid to do it. Again, I'm reflecting on being a Gen Xer. I know for me as a woman of color, it was, if I don't do all the things, people are going to tell me I'm not good enough.
Right.
Right. But if I can come back to, no, but I am good enough. Where I am today, what I have accomplished, just who I am as just a being, I'm just here. The miracle that it took for me to get here and be on this planet, that's enough. So if I can just be here, then I have the space to be unapologetic. But I think if we get stuck in, I have to do, be, say, have these things to be okay, I think that's sometimes what makes it hard to set a boundary. So to me, it comes, and I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's intentional, and it's every day, right? It is every day having a mantra, right? And one of mine is, I am enough exactly as I am. I am enough exactly as I am. And I think if I keep coming back to that, along with taking a deep breath, sometimes I have to take a deep breath before I set the boundary, before I articulate the boundary, because I got to be okay with, okay, I'm going to say this, and it might have a consequence, but you know what? I'm okay. Because if the consequence is one that is not good, then whatever this relationship or situation or place that I'm in may not be the place I need to be. And I need that feedback to know I got to do something different. So I think it comes back to, I feel like being able to set boundaries has to do with recognizing that who I am is enough, who I am is perfect in this moment, and in each moment I'm growing into a more perfect version of myself. As my colleague said, I'm doing the best I can. I can't do any more than that. And I think if we can allow ourselves that grace, it makes it a teeny tiny bit easier to set and then enforce the boundaries. Because setting them is one thing. Enforcing them is a whole nother
different
ball of
thing.
wax, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I would
Yeah.
say.
My child is teaching me the importance of consistent boundaries.
Oh, I'm sure. Wait, tell us more.
No.
He was brought to me on this earth to teach me about boundaries, setting the consistent boundaries. I struggle with boundaries, with setting them. It's really tough for me. I have to keep coming back to that, that just truth, that innate truth that I am enough, that I do deserve. I struggle with it. So for me, being really intentional, as you both have said, and really reflecting on what's important to me, kind of the hierarchy of what is a non-negotiable in my life, how I want to show up for myself, for my people, and what do I need? What is getting in the way of that?
That's it.
And I keep coming back to my child, but like having him has really helped me kind of become a little bit more clear with this, because when I see things through the lens of, what I would want for him, or what, I don't want to get in the way of my care for him, it's kind of like a light bulb, like, oh, okay, I have to say no to something else in order to say yes to this. And it's a practice, and the intentional consistency is what creates the change.
I think so.
And I love that you said starting small. Like it's so important to not start at the top of the mountain, but just be, okay, one breath, one step, one little chip away, and eventually those little steps like create a whole new path.
I agree. And I would just add, as a fellow anxious person, that gets in the way too. The anxiety of if I do this thing, if I set this boundary, if I enforce this boundary. We go from 0 to 60 like that. And you catastrophize.
Yeah.
So I think if you can remember, that's my anxiety. I tell myself all the time, this is my anxiety talking. And I have my senior executive liaison who works with me. She's a good reminder. So an accountability buddy, just somebody you trust, who can say, you know what, Lauren, don't do that thing. It's blue t-shirt day, but don't feel bad because somebody else forgot the blue t-shirt too. You're not the only one. Just having that person, that one person that you can rely on to sort of pump you up. My daughter does that for me too. I think that accountability buddy, especially those of us who are anxious, can help a lot.
Wow. Yeah, I was, as you all were speaking, first of all, thank you so much for these insights. I feel like I'm learning so much just by sitting on the stage with you, so thank you for sharing. As you were speaking, I was thinking about, I asked my daughter this question last night, and I was like, well, what's a boundary? Like, how do you practice setting your boundaries? And she was like, well, I have twin children. I have a boy and a girl. I tell Carter that he can't come into my room. And I was like, okay, like that's a very good example of a boundary at 9 o'clock. She's like, I want my space. I like it to be a certain way. He comes in, he like throws things around. I don't like it. So I tell him not. And then he's like, well, what do you do if I come in? And I was like, ooh, this is like testing the boundary. Like, what do you do if he comes in? And she's like, well, then she's like, then I throw him out, which is, like the 9-year-old version, but you do have to uphold your boundaries, and you have to, like, when people test it, you will test your own boundaries. The world and work and life will test them. Someone's going to try to come into your room and throw around space, and you have to say like, no, I would prefer my space to be this way, and learning how to cultivate and hold that space is incredibly important. So thank you all for sharing. I now want to move us to questions from the audience, if that's okay. Yeah. So we had a bunch of really great questions come in. I'm excited to get to them. One of them I feel like is particularly relevant to all of us. But I'll start with Anna. And this is from an RN who works bedside. So imagine somebody working bedside in a hospital. It's an incredibly chaotic environment. She says, what is your advice for staying calm in the midst of chaos at work when there's not even a minute to take a break? So we talked about small, right? Like go for a walk, do a 5-minute meditation. But when there's not 1 minute to take a break, what do you suggest?
What has worked really well for me, and what you mentioned as well, is having a mantra. When anxiety and overwhelm hits for me, sometimes I need something to hold on to. I need something that I'm like, I know that's right here. And for me, I am here, this is now, I am enough, anything that can really ground you in yourself in this moment, in your breath, in your worth, that you can just come back to as home. This is your baseline. Like anytime there's overwhelm, come back home to that mantra, to your breath, and just create that little sanctuary inside, even in the eye of a storm. I love to have that in my back pocket. And not even to say that it's that easy, but that is probably my top thing that I reach for in moments of like, okay, there's a lot going on here. This is what I'm gonna hold on to right now.
I love it. I think for me, it is, you do have a minute. You have to take a minute. Because if you're not okay, I know you all have heard, you have to put your mask on the plane if something goes off before you put the mask on somebody else. So particularly in these kind of settings, like if you're in a medical setting, I spent about 15 years working in psychiatry. And if you don't take a moment for yourself, no one's going to give you a moment for yourself. And aren't you worthy of 60 seconds? So if you have to go sneak into the bathroom to get 60 seconds of time, like mom has to go to the bathroom, right? Yes. Then go to the bathroom. Who's going to stop you from going to the bathroom? Even if you're on your shift, who's going to stop you from going to the bathroom? So I think it is recognizing that you have to each of us has to prioritize taking that time. And again, speaking as an anxious person, speaking as a person with multiple marginalized identities, it can be easy to say, I just got to go do this stuff. But I think what's more important is I can't do that stuff well if I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And so 60 seconds, you are worthy of 60 seconds of taking care of yourself. And you don't have to sit, right? And it's not not always that. Sometimes it's just like walking from point A to point B and just breathing and focusing. So giving yourself permission, we have to give ourselves permission to steal 60 seconds to take care of ourselves.
I do feel it's like there's, you hit on something there that I have found to be true, and that people have this one note perception of what mindfulness looks like. I think that being mindful is like, sitting with your feet on the floor, doing a meditation for 15 minutes. And for all of us, that's not available if you're a busy nurse. And so can you talk a little bit about, any of you can do this, but what does it look like to cultivate mindfulness in your day to day, at work or at home? Like, what does it look like to cultivate mindfulness in the midst of your daily life?
I talked about mine a little bit, but for me also, I'll just add that like I live and die by my calendar.
Yes.
And so I actually schedule time for myself. And so on my schedule.
Are you good at keeping it?
Yes.
Wow.
Amazing.
And so there's like a block on my calendar and it's like workout time, which is walk or whatever. And so like, I know like, and I'm annoying about it, but it's just how I am.
It's not annoying, it's necessary.
No, but I'm saying like about my calendar. Like my husband will say, we're doing this thing. And I will say, well, did you put it on the calendar?
There you go.
If it's not on the calendar, that's a boundary.
I feel like our husbands could start a support group.
Then it doesn't exist for me. And so I think it's also just like it can be any amount of time. And sometimes it's like a 5-minute break in between meetings, if that's all you're getting, to go outside, to just like, sometimes I just like go, even here where we have like the benefit of having outdoor space in our office. Yesterday, I went outside for 5 minutes and just sat outside. And I was like, oh, it feels really nice to get some fresh air and just like schedule the time wherever you can.
That's wise. So build in time for it.
I love that. Everything that you said, the person who works for me and keeps my calendar, she does that. She taught me about the blocks.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You have to put them in there and like they're sacred. They don't move. Like you don't move them unless it's like a real emergency. Yeah. So I love that. And I think the only thing I would add in terms of practicing mindfulness, I read one of the seminal books, Wherever You Go, There You Are. It was a slow read. Don't get me. It was a slow read. It was hard. But it taught me a lot. And the only thing I would add is just that someone had to teach me later, a good girlfriend, Dr. Deborah Budding, she taught me mindfulness, like you said, it's not just sitting, like you were saying. Mindfulness is literally the act of being present.
Yeah.
There are multiple kinds of meditation and just being present. I did a taping with someone, he's a celebrity, and he was saying what he likes to do is go to a baseball game. But what I said was, that's mindfulness, because you're focusing on being at the park with your hot dog, watching, right? Oh, home run, you're focused on that. That's being present. You're not thinking about all this other stuff that you have to do. So I think it is like recognizing that there are these little things, and that's what I do. So the scheduling is a big one, the blocks, and then just making myself take the time to be present, and then just the literal act of being present and coming back to, I am here, I'm chopping these onions, I'm getting ready to make this fried rice. This is what I'm doing now. So those are some of the ways that I try to practice mindfulness.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I mean, this is kind of just a reiteration of everything that you all said, but there truly are opportunities for mindfulness in everything we do. I think it's easy to feel like life is happening to us and like our senses are just being, are being pulled and, grab onto the shiniest, brightest, loudest thing. And it's easy to be like, wait, I'm so overwhelmed. And like, how did I get here? And where am I? And why is this happening? And simply, doing the dishes, focusing on, I'm here, bringing your full presence to whatever it is that you're doing. And for me, when I notice that my full presence is not in whatever I'm doing, that's when I'm like, okay, I have not scheduled the block of time appropriately. Like I need to go, reset, a walk outside, a moment to kind of touch down and land in my
Touch
body.
some grass.
Yeah, touch some grass. Be like, okay, here I am. Let me suck myself back into the container, because it's easy to get pulled out. The way our society is designed is to pull us out and make us think that everything we need is like out here. But it's not. And we have that power to really reclaim our presence and our lives in that way. Sounds big, but it's actually a small step.
Like a series of small steps.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to the audience for submitting such great questions.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move us to the next portion. And this is my favorite one because this is where we just get to know about you as people. This is what we call this or that. And it's a fun way that we like to end our panels here at Peloton. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question and then you're going to respond to which one is your favorite.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Are we doing it one at a time? You're gonna
No, we'll go in order.
Okay.
Okay. We'll do everyone's going to answer every question.
Got it.
Okay, ready? Okay. Meditation or outdoor walk or run?
Who's first?
You're first.
Outdoor walk or run?
Okay.
I can't say both. Meditation.
Oh.
Meditation, but outside.
What she said.
Okay, we'll accept that. Okay. Morning or evening workout? This is very controversial.
I prefer the morning, but sometimes I only can do it at night.
Okay. Acceptable.
Or I'm cranky. If I don't do it in the morning, I'm
Yeah.
cranky. It has to be morning.
Okay. I'm a night owl, but I need a morning workout. It's like if it's not happening in the morning, then
It ain't
I got to do my work at night. I'm not have my head on straight in the morning.
I'm also a morning workout person. I can't work out at night or else I'm become an unintentional night owl. Okay, Anna, favorite Peloton class to teach? Dr. Alfie and Lauren, I know this is tough. Favorite Peloton class to take?
Okay, so my favorite type of class to teach is just the longer the better. And I know we don't always have time for that, but I love, being able to just dive into that 60-minute space, 45 to 60 minute, to just really like create a space with the members and like cook something up that's very special. That's my favorite, but I do love them all.
Yeah. When I cheat, I love them all, but my favorite is anything with upper body weights. 'Cause
Wow.
I feel like I'm doing something.
That tells me so much about you as a person. Thank you.
I also feel like you're asking me to pick a favorite child
Right?
right now, but
I'm right over here. No pressure.
so, and I think, for me at the moment, I'm really enjoying my tread boot camps.
Yes.
Because it's like everything. It's long. Like I like the 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I did Adrian's Thunder 45.
Oh my goodness.
I wouldn't say that I love that. I was like, that was really, really hard. And I was like, I can do this. And then I was like, just kidding.
You're not the same after as you were before.
Yeah. So I like the you're doing weights, you're kind of getting everything. And so as a person that I think it kind of hits a lot of stuff. It's very efficient because it's my cardio and my strength and everything all at once.
And there's something really valuable about doing something hard and then looking at yourself after and being like, I did that. I can go do anything. Yeah. Okay. Song that's giving you a serotonin boost right now.
Okay. I'm kind of loving Sabrina Carpenter Feather. I'm like, let it go, just, anything you don't need. It's a bop.
I'm a big hip hop head. So there's this one song by Tribe Called Quest called Find My Way from the Love Movement album.
Oh my gosh.
That's like my thing. Right now I'm just on that.
Mine's been the same for a while, and a lot of people make fun of me for it, but I'm going to say it anyway, which is
We're all friends here.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I actually think I
Favorite child.
heard in a Peloton class, and I was like, God, I haven't heard that song in so long. And now my kids are like, you listen to this song every day. I'm like, I love it. It's Uproar. Lil Wayne.
God.
Just really feels like it gets me going, and I'm like, whatever I'm doing, I like put that song on, and I'm like, whether I'm going to work out or I'm going to work, I'm like, it's my song.
When you said you were hip hop, I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to talk about Kendrick
It
and
was
Drake.
1,000 songs. Like asking me to pick a favorite child. Like yes.
Yeah. Mine is the Hamilton soundtrack, for those who are wondering.
It's what?
The Hamilton soundtrack.
whole thing?
The
Oh,
whole
okay.
thing,
Yeah.
start to
Yeah.
finish. And then lastly, let's close with, what's one tip that you'd leave everyone if they're on a journey to start holding space for themselves?
Oh man, that's such a big question. I would say be intentional and give yourself grace.
Excellent.
Oh God, this is such a hard question. I'll just say what I always say to people. And I try to remind myself, and it's this thing I came up with years ago. But basically, the idea is we each have a love and a light in us. And my thing is, I hope that people will always proudly and easily share their light with everyone they encounter, knowing the goodness of the universe in every moment. Because even when stuff is hard, there's still goodness in the universe if we can come back to who we are at our core.
I mean, how do you go after that?
I'm glad I went first.
These are all incredible answers.
I mean, I would say I think a lot of times it's like, just do it, just get started, just take the first step. And I think like, that's what I tell myself. Like if I'm getting into a rut, it's like, just take a minute, 5 minutes, whatever it is, like you can do it. You just have to just go for it and just do it and start really small. I think things can feel really overwhelming when you feel like, like if you're just getting into Peloton, maybe you don't do the Thunder 45 or a 60-minute boot camp class, but do 5 minutes or a minute or whatever it is. So I think just taking the first step is usually the hardest step. And so I would say like, take the first step, let it be small, and go from there.
Love that.
Those were such excellent answers. And I know I put you on the spot, but thank you so much for take the first step, recognize your own worthiness, be intentional. Please give our panelists a wonderful round of applause for that incredibly rich conversation. Thank you. And for those tuning in, you can continue the conversation with us on the Peloton app. All of you have access to Peloton app 1. We encourage you to claim your benefit and join Anna on their mat. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Please, if you want to get started this month, you can check out the 20 Million Minutes Challenge, which we're very excited. It kicks off tomorrow. And it'll be 24 hours. And if we hit 20 million minutes, culminating in 2 classes on the Peloton platform, we'll donate to Project Healthy Minds. So thank you so much for joining us. Have an incredible Mental Health Awareness Month and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaliyah.
Thank you.
Aaliyah. Thank you.